Bang! Neeves Knives, I'm Jared, and today we got some new Kizers. And, you know, Kizer knows what they're doing to be putting out these knives at the end of the year because these are some bangers. So we have the new Kizer Top Sail in S45 with a matte DLC Ultra blade, titanium, and a titanium Damascus, or known as Timascus inlays. So you can see we have a Timascus inlay on that side and on the show side. And we have a side cut Timascus piece for the back spacer. Now, if you look, the S45 matte DLC is a little different. I thought it was just going to be like a blasted finish, but when you look at it, it is different. It definitely has more of a matte look to it. A little bit of a goldish hue to it with a very, very soft look and feel. Beautiful drop point blade, S45 VN, great steel. I have not tested Kizer's S45 as thorough as I'm going to soon. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. But, you know, it needs a controlled edge retention test to some degree. I've tested it as far as used it, but never in a controlled manner. But also, I want to show you guys, before we get really into the steels talk, you have this matte finish, or sorry, the stone-washed finish over the DLC titanium handle. It's somewhat of like, yeah, it's a stone wash. But then you have this satin-finished clip, along with the hardware. So the hardware in the scale has a little bit of a two-tone. And then, you know, obviously the Timascus, the access to the lock bar is amazing. And if you look, you see how it's an exposed frame lock. So this means this is great for lefties. Perfect for lefties. It acts just like a liner lock, except for you're getting basically a bolster lock, but the clip is not reversible. So that kind of sucks. The lock bar cutout's on the inside though, which is cool. And if you look at this side, it has these gold hues from the Timascus. Pretty cool. Let's talk about the action. So we have the hole deployment. Now the hole, that was my fault, works great for the thumb or the reverse flick. I would say they're equally as good. Neither one is better than the other. Not at all. Like, they're both really, really good. Lands in a good spot. You got a great detent. You can do the slow roll. Then you have the top flipper or front flipper, which has the perfect jipping all the way up and around the top of the front flipper. So you can easily grip it from the tippity tip of that front flipper, and it works great. I would say the hole and front flipper are also equal. This is a great fidget knife because you got good access to the lock bar, great drop shutty action. You got a great detent along with well-placed deployment options. Man, really, really cool. I like this one a lot. The only negatives I could say is, one, I wish the plunge grind was a little bit better. Not going to go too crazy on that. I talk about it all the time, but I wish it was just had a little bit more clearance for sharpening. It's fine though, not a deal breaker. The next thing is, I wish when using Timascus, we got to make sure we start using the versions or samples that have thicker patterns. When you have these tight patterns like this, where all the colors are so close together, it almost looks like an oil spill. When you start fingerprinting it up, it starts getting more and more difficult to see, and you start blending it all in. And it just kind of looks, you know, it doesn't look as good. However, and it goes with all polished Timascus and Zircotai and whatnot, all the other ones, Mochatai, Mochame, blah, 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 blah. But when you have the tight knit patterns, it makes it where you almost can't tell if it is Timascus from a distance, but if it's thick patterns, you don't get that. Even with fingerprints and smudges, it just doesn't do that because they're so thick you can clearly see the separation of materials from, you know, whether it's Zircotai or Timascus. So I would recommend try to get the thicker pattern Timascuses. That way, when you're looking at this, it just pops at you. I think that'd be really awesome. But yeah, banger knife, man. Really like that one. Now this next one, I got a hard time knowing which one I like better, and I think it might be this one. I'm not positive, but this is the Shrike. Oh boy. this is a small knife, and the thing is I typically am more of a larger knife fan. But when a small knife is done like this, I love it. Here is the box. It's upside down for you guys. The Shrike in S45, also with a matte DLC Ultra Blade. Titanium and fat carbon camo. Gold. So we have the gold camo carb with gold accents all the way around. I really like that. You know, the hardware, if you look at the even the steel lock bar insert is a T8. Isn't that awesome? Man, beautiful, beautiful look too. I like the look of this. It just looks like, I don't want to say futuristic, but it has this really sharp look to it. Looks awesome. I think this is very attractive while also being very functional. This is like a really good size handle. So you got a full grip, full grip. I can choke back and still get a full grip, but it's a full grip. So I have a full control of this thing while having a little razor hanging out of my hand. So for like going around boxes and opening things up, it's really good. Utility cuts are phenomenal. And they got well-placed jimping in all the right spots. Look at that. You got jimping under here. You got jimping there. You got jimping more by the nose. That one's not that very sharp, but you got it. And, you know, for slicing and stuff like that, I mean, you got a lot of control. You know, if you did need to break something down, it's really good. In this blade shape, it's kind of a leaf shape style blade shape, kind of like Spyderco's, where it's basically a drop point blade with a very low tip. So this is going to be a precision beast. Beautiful plunge grind. Like I said, I love that the jimping's right there. Access to the lock bar, phenomenal. Phenomenal access. And then let's talk about this action. So we have a front flipper with good jimping. The jimping goes all the way up to the tippity top. So you can easily get it with the reach over at the peak of the front flipper. Once again, this works great for all the deployments that you would do with a front flipper. And you have thumb studs that work great for the thumb or the reverse flick. And then you have the whole deployment for the reverse flick. I wouldn't use it for the thumb, but for the reverse flick, this little window or a little hole with the fuller works great. Great detent. Now, one complaint about the action is the detent is very late. I prefer a detent to be like right here. So, well, even like right there. So as soon as I disengage, it's already past it. This one's all the way right there. So you do hit it. Now, technically, you could use it as a fidget factor. So what you do is you just let it hit the detent and then you put pressure and it smacks shut, because it's kind of like opening it, but just the opposite way. Well, obviously closing is the opposite of opening, but the detent placement. So just like you'll have a detent in the opening, you have a detent in the closing, which is kind of cool. Or you can just let it go past the detent. So you do have a good placement for the access to the lock bar to get right past it. So that's not a problem. It's only when you do it early that you're going to hit it. So nitpick, but you know, I'm glad they didn't put a damn ramp there, because if they would have put a ramp here, it wouldn't get past the detent till like right there. Because that's the worst thing, is when they put a late detent and a detent ramp. You can only use a detent ramp if the detent is nice and early. But you do have to be careful, by the way, flicking it closed constantly. Usually that's never an issue. But sometimes it'll rip the detent out, which is why they made detent ramps. But, it rarely happens. Clip, good clip, titanium clip. It's also got that satin finish. You notice how we got the satin type of hardware and clip, you know, and then we got the matte finish on the blade and handle. The handle, I can't tell if this is, yeah, this is more of a matte finish or a blasted finish on the handle. You can see it's a little bit brighter than the blade. Like I said, the blade almost has like a gold hue with that matte finish. And then beautiful backspacer. Not sure if it's aluminum, titanium, or copper, or brass. Pretty sure it's just titanium that's anodized. Stupid good, man. I love this thing. I love this thing a lot. I think they did a great job with it. And the size of it, like I said, this is not my size knife, but I love it. So I would absolutely carry it. I would love to see this one in a little bit larger, just a little bit. That'd be so badass. But badass knife all around. Next, they got a new version of the T1. Guys, if you guys know the channel, if you guys have been following the channel for a long time, you know the T1's been one of my favorites forever. It was one of my, not my first, but it was like around the beginning of the channel, it was one of my first super premium knives. It had a titanium handle, I think an S35 blade, but it had this super high-end feel to it, where the frame lock was easy to disengage, it was super smooth, had a great detent, great action, felt good in the hand, it cut good. So we have that model brought back now with a clutch lock. Beautiful micarta with this very, very soft, furry texture. This stuff's definitely going to get very dark over time. Deep carry clip, inset with flat screws and reversible. Well, maybe it's not inset. It kind of looked inset, but it's not. Sorry. No, it's not inset. And then TA hardware all the way around. Again, we have a beautiful drop point blade. This one's in Nitro V with the stone washed finish. And the clutch lock, they do such a good job with, I think the clutch lock is the best version of the crossbar lock. So, and you can adjust it very easily. You can take the scales off and just adjust, you know, the placement of where the Omega springs hook onto, and then it changes the strength. And in this case, this one's already perfect. And I love that they did a better plunge grind. I can't remember. I don't think that the original one had a good plunge grind, so they definitely made that a lot better. So that's really good. So, man, no complaints. No complaints at all. This is a great knife. If you want a super solid, badass workhorse of a knife, not only like just, you know, as far as cutting performance and everything, but the size, the ergos, the, you know, everything about it is just like a user, right? And that's what I've always loved about it. That was the T1. Now, really quick, before we get into these little fixies, I gotta bring up the original 2. I know I've already featured this on the channel, and it's gonna see a lot more of the channel, let me tell you, because this could potentially be one of the best budget knives of the year, as far as the budget version goes, but it also comes in a premium one already. Now, the original 2 comes in 3 different blade shapes. So you have different handle materials and blade shapes. You have the Tonto, drop point, and what I like to call their Nkosi blade shape. So it reminds me of the Chris Reeves Nkosi. I love this blade shape. It's one of my all-time favorite blade shapes, somewhat of like a hybrid between a drop point and a sheep's foot. I call it a drop foot. But it has beautiful S45 blade. I think this is DLC, I'm not 100%, but it's an S45 VN blade with a deep hollow grind, nice plunge grind, and they land, if you look, they put the end of the plunge grind right where the second jimp is. Yes, it's a little bit closer to the edge. This one's already been sharpened, by the way, but I would prefer it to have went all the way back to the second jimping. But isn't it cool how they incorporated the jimping with the plunge grind? I think that's crazy. It's really cool. So happy to see that. This one hasn't been sharpened yet, but you can see it'd be nice if it was a little bit farther away, but it at least still has a decent plunge grind. Handle, very ergonomic. Great size too. This is not too big. It's not too small. It's slim, yet not like too slim. Like it's just like it's like an ultimate package, right? You have a deep carry clip inset with flat screws and reversible with a replacement plate. This one does not have the replacement plate, but it is reversible and it does have flat screws. It's using the clutch lock once again, so you can adjust those. And you know, I love that we have not only Nitro V, or sorry, 14C28N, or we have S45VN. So you've got choices here of what I'm probably going to call one of the best knives of the year. This is, I got a top 10 coming up, and there's no way this isn't making it. There's no way this is not making it in the top 10, whether it's the premium one or the budget one. I think that this is just a great user. This is, to me, like the ultimate knife as far as if you want something that's going to be a knife, if you want it to be a tool, if you want it to be a workhorse, if you also care about looks and you're like, man, I want a good looking knife that kind of fits all the little categories, bang, right here. Kizer Original 2 with the clutch lock. All right, so next we have this little guy. Now this is something special though. Don't just look at it, you got to look at the materials. We got the Rook, the Kizer Rook with 10V blade steel with a black coating. Don't know what the coating is, but it is in Rich Light micarta or Rich Light. It is a chocolate Rich Light, and it does look like chocolate, by the way. It almost looks like wood. But we have 10V. You guys know what 10V is? 10V, think of it as K390, right? It's actually technically slightly above K390, but for all argument's sake, it's K390. And K390 is personally my favorite steel. This has a sheath on it. Kizer always does a good job with the sheaths. Got a nice push-off point. You got a nice, belt attachment that is adjustable. And at first, when I first looked at this, I was like, yeah, I don't know about this thing, And I'm still not like the most excited about the look of it or the, just kind of the style. But when I put it in my hand and I actually start thinking about using it, this thing's pretty awesome. You got this big ass harpoon, somewhat of a speared out blade shape, good jimping all the way up. Super slim in the hand, by the way, very slim. 3 finger, then I got a 4, my pinky just wraps around the ass right there. So I'm locked in right here. Pinch grips are great. I can easily skin with it and do roll cuts, which I think that this is what this thing's gonna shine at, is like, hunting and, breaking down game and stuff like that, because it feels like that's what it was made for. Not saying you have to use it for that. And, I'm not sure how 10V would be for something like that. It does have this coating, but this type of coating is a coating that does take wear pretty bad. This stuff rips off I'm not gonna say easily, but it's a thick coating with a very scratchy feel. So it tends to not hang up, but it tends to basically, the materials kind of tear it off. So you'll see a lot of these coatings, you'll really see the wear on them. Now, K390 is not the most stain resistant steel. I personally don't have a problem with it. I just keep it clean, keep it dry. A lot of people like to patina it. And if you do that, it turns like a bluish gray, which is really cool. Go watch a video on it if you want to see, but a lot of people like to do that with their K390, and it kind of makes its own protection. Anyways, really cool knife and love the steel. My only complaint is the plunge grind, really. I wish that was a little bit bigger. I think that'd be really cool. And yeah, let's get to this next one. So we have 2 new little drop bears. So these are the drop bear Fixies. But if you look at how small this guy is. It is very small, very, very slim. And we have S45VN with the clip point and 14C28N on the spear point. So we have I think this is the chocolate Rich Light and then brown Rich Light. Has a nice look to it. It's very lightweight, very hard, very durable. It's probably going to be much more, man, this almost looks like a nice micarta too that's just been polished. Anyways, spear point blade, very, very slim. Again, both of these would also be great skinning knives. Now this one, if you look, the grind, well, if you look at this one, the grind goes almost all the way up to the spine. It's almost a full flat grind, but it's not. This one, the grind starts way, way closer to the edge. So this is much thicker as far as geometry goes. Now, the spine's not thicker. I just mean the geometry and cutting. Now, some people might want that. So, to each their own. But if you do lower back the edge angle, this will take a very, very, very sharp edge, because when you get knives that are a little bit thicker behind the edge, and you put a low edge angle on it, that's when you can get probably some of the sharpest feeling edges as far as the most bite and sharpness, because you're taking a thicker blade and putting a very low acute angle on it, and it allows the teeth from the serrations, from the micro serrations, to be larger to some degree. Anyways, I've always liked the drop bear. I like pretty much all the drop bears. I do have some of my favorites, but these ones are a little bit small for me. I prefer them to be just I don't even want to say bigger, because I do like this size, and I think that this size is very, very EDC friendly. So yeah, I'm not even gonna say anything about it. I think this is pretty damn cool. The pinch grips are phenomenal with this. And again, this is such a little blade. You have, and with how thin it is and everything, you have so much control over it. This one does have, I just noticed this one has the holes all the way through. unlike this one. But anyways, there you guys go. Just a quick look at some of Kizer's new models. I'll have everything linked down in the description. Work hard, stay tough. Till next time, peace.